Hello and welcome back. We're looking at our map here and we're about to head over to... Oh. Apparently, Lord Captain! Fuck. There's a lot of quests going on. We're gonna go there. Lord Captain, there is some commotion on the officer's deck. The Lady Navigator has left her quarters and is currently in the wardroom, where uninitiated crew members are shunning her in terror. Perhaps you should find out what has brought Cassia to the deck. Let's indeed go there and see what's going on. Navigators are kind of scary. Oh, this is where you're hanging out. Okay. Oh, look at that.
Lord Captain, my apologies. I did not notice your entrance.
She's engrossed in perusing the dusty tomes, which appear to have been neglected by the other officers, be it because of sloth or dullness of mind. When you walk closer, Lady Cassia looks up at you, starts, and hides a weathered book behind her back. I see you're fond of reading.
Oh, this. I found this fascinating read on one of the shelves, and I must say, it has caught my eye. Its every chapter is written in verse.
Oh.
I find it so beautiful and enrapturing.
Interesting. Cassia carefully shows you the book, which turns out to be a collection of works by the Cadian naval commander and poet Aelius Quent. I don't recognize that name. I don't know if I should. What's the main character in Battlefleet Gothic? There's an admiral. Ah.
Urak 5 had a vast archive of its own, of course. Although most of the works within had to do with scholarly disciplines of some sort or another. Only in my sparse moments of respite was I allowed to escape into the pages of more embellished works.
Cassia gently brushes the dust of the cover with her thin clawed hand, her eyes filled with longing after reminiscing about her lost home. The events that took place on Urak 5 must have shaken you greatly. Are you well?
One should not underestimate the navigators of House Orselio, Lord Captain. Like a shawl of pale smoke, a faint malaise hangs upon my shoulders, but it will not be the slightest hindrance to my duty to humanity, and my duty to you.
Sorry about that. Cassia's response is reserved and pointedly decorous, clearly intended to create a distance between you. Your only attendant is your valet from Urak 5. Do my servants not measure up to your standards?
No, it is not that at all, Lord Captain. It is just that Uwe is quite capable of carrying out his duties by himself. He is well accustomed to my whims and preferences.
Ooh, perception test succeeded. Cassia cringes ever so slightly, adjusts the adornment on her forehead, and then awkwardly hides her clawed fingers in the folds of her clothes. The unnatural appearance of navigators often becomes the topic of gossip among lowly servants and officers alike. It is unsurprising then that Cassia prefers the company of one who is used to how she looks. I don't have an option to comment on that, though. I hope that you have had ample time to calm yourself and your powers.
There are people on this ship who are far more impulsive and dangerous to others, and far less devoted to the God Emperor than a herald of the Navis nobility. But I did not need your words to see the shades of umber unease that whirl around your subjects whenever I am near. Were I not acquainted with such a reaction, I could have found their behavior in your question just now insulting.
Well, I only had that option, I'm sorry.
Lord Captain, would you kindly explain to me why you are pestering me with these questions? Inquiring about my mood and my needs, showing an interest in the books I am enjoying. You are behaving as if you possessed a shred of fellow feeling for one such as I.
Yeah?
I beg your pardon, Lord Captain. That was no way for a navigator to conduct herself.
Frightened by her own words, Cassia covers her mouth, pales, blushes, then pales again, and hides her face behind the cascade of her snow-white hair. Now, I want to be friendly with the navigator. She is cool. You have nothing to apologize for. Human emotions are natural, be they good or bad, and it is just as natural to share them with others.
Please forgive me. I cannot even understand myself right now. Your words and attention have reminded me of life on the station, of Theobald and Felek. I do not understand. They were merely the keepers of Urak 5. So, why do memories of those two make me feel a strange heaviness here?
She places a hand on her breastplate. The primness of her expression cracks, revealing a great weariness beneath.
At the same time, I find myself overwhelmed with new excitement and anticipation. At last, I have set foot outside my familiar walls, and into a world that I have only seen before in the pages of books. Your ship alone is a treasure trove of remarkable artifacts and curiosities. And just imagine the things that await beyond, but... My delight must seem childish to you, surely. In your heart, you must be finding all this quite amusing.
That first one is, goddamn, is pretty harsh. Let's... Part genuine curiosity, part wanting to be friendly with the navigator, as she will be very important to our future success. So I'm gonna say, I understand what you're going through. My own life was turned upside down not too long ago.
Indeed. I did not know. That is to say, I could not have known, as it is the first time we are speaking in a circumstance so private. My word, when I found this place, it was so full of officers. Why did they all leave?
Okay, I can't be entirely honest. That's not something I want to say. I'll go for it. Perhaps my people did not wish to disturb you. Disturb you.
Because my presence
Yeah,
offends
that's
them.
probably the real thing.
Then I must take my leave as well. I am due to inspect the Sanctum Navis after the communion ritual and prepare the chamber for the upcoming warp jump. Thank you for your company.
Well, that was I enjoy that interaction. So we can go here, I guess. Spend some time. This is the very same area that we were in during the tutorial. The opening, if you will. Though there doesn't appear to be anything to do here. Please report any bugs by pressing Alt-B. I'll try and keep that in mind. Should have done so on the T-posing officer, for instance. Oh, there she is. So I'm guessing these are all real people. That might just be a stand-in for the player character. All is well on the bridge, Lord Captain. Anything to say, Abelard?
Lord Captain.
Let's take some time to listen to him.
As you wish, Lord Captain. What would you like to know?
Tell me about yourself. What were you before you became Theodora's Seneschal?
I used to be an officer in the Navis
Oh,
Imperialis.
really? That makes sense.
No. I used to be is not quite right. It was not simply a job. It was my calling. The essence of my life. I was proud to serve Lord Captain Theodora. but in my heart and mind, I'm still an officer of the Imperium. I met Lord Captain Theodore
that's
on a
natural
mission
enough.
where the Imperial Navy was providing reinforcements to the rogue traders' army on one of the frontier worlds. Our acquaintance was not easy. Working with people outside the Navy hierarchy has never been my strong suit. It was to my great surprise then, that after the mission's completion, I received a referral to leave my service in the Navy and join the rogue traders' personal council.
Yeah.
It was a difficult choice for me, but I saw in the offer a chance to serve the interests of humanity
spicy.
even more effectively than in the Navis Imperialis. You do not need me to tell you just how remarkable a person Lord Captain Theodora was.
Well, rogue traders in
I recognized
general.
her at once as a true leader and formidable creative force. One who had built a protectorate amidst the dangers and wildness of the
Yes.
expanse.
Let's save this for a second. Leaving the Imperial Navy is far from easy. Why were you permitted to quit your post?
You could say there was no one among the naval command who was willing to impede the wishes of the rogue trader. To do so would be to risk their own position and their relationship with Theodora. Well, the Lord Captain possessed certain contacts in the Imperial Navy. Contacts which she used to request help during the conflict on the border world. And which enabled her to make me an offer that resulted in my joining her retinue.
We're gonna have to work on those contacts. That's an important part of being a rogue trader.
The Navis Imperialis
Coercion
is an
test.
ancient institution with its own
Intense
mandates
stare.
and muster lists. On occasion, in the heat of an official briefing or an informal discussion, I violated those rules, determined to press my point. It is challenging to choose the words to accurately express my opinion on a situation or the actions of others that do not sound overly scathing or confrontational. Many in command were inclined to view my manner of speaking as unbefitting a person of my
Really?
rank.
Huh. Do you have a family?
I am a widower.
Oh, really?
I am a father of 4.
Four?
And if my
Huh.
information is not outdated, a
Grandfather of 11?
My family lives on Dargonus. None of my children expressed any eagerness or aptitude for serving aboard ship, and I would hardly have insisted that they follow in my footsteps.
Well, that's good. This is a bit juicy. Let's see what he has to say about this. The way you talk about Theodora, I'm beginning to think you are in love with her.
What? Lord Captain, any allegations of improper feelings or unsanctioned relations are utterly baseless and bordering on the insulting. Utterly baseless.
Alright, thank you. I have no more
Of
questions.
course.
I must take my leave. Until next time, Seneschal.
Lord Captain.
Kinda wanna check what Argenta thinks about this. Do we... I know... Let's...
Gladly. There are none more faithful to the God Emperor than my sisters.
Well, I
We
know
fight against fierce enemies by
the
the
sisters
will of
pretty
the
well, but let's
holy
listen.
ecclesiarchy. We... I beg your pardon, rogue trader. Here I am talking about what every lesser noble in the Imperium knows. So what exactly are you interested in hearing about?
What... Oh, yeah, I wanna know.
Once I had completed my novitiate,
Watch it later.
I was sent to the Calixian branch of the Order of Our Martyred Lady, assigned to the Order's Pronatus. The Order's mission is vital and noble. The Sisters Pronatus protect great relics of the Imperium. We guard them, preserve them, escort them when they are brought onto the battlefield and presented for pilgrims to venerate. And we seek out the relics that have been lost. Neither a coven of heretics nor the most wicked death world can deter Sisters Pronatus when their goal is to return a piece of the great legacy of the Imperium into the hands of the faithful.
God, I'm so glad I decided to invest in Imperium lore and like lore in general. The Order Pronatus is not one of the Order's militant, and yet you are a trained fighter.
Don't let the name deceive you. The Order's militant trains sisters to march onto the battlefield as an army. That does not make sisters who belong to the non-militant orders timid and helpless.
Very true.
Both the solace-bringing Sisters Hospitaller and the enlightened Sisters Dialogus know how to greet enemies of humanity. Their dialogue with heretics is usually quite short, with the last word being a bolter discharge.
Who's
And my
voice
order
acting?
has all the more reason to be known for the martial prowess of its sisters. We are the keepers of the Imperium's relics. What would become of our blessed hero's legacy if the Sisters Pronatus could not protect it?
I'm enjoying the voice acting for this character. You said you belong to the Calixian branch of your order. What brought you to the Corona's Expanse?
The Order sent me to Footfall. My undertaking was to assist the local priesthood of Drusians
see.
in caring for a sacred reliquary that had been there since the time of Pastor Mr. Wayne, the station's founder.
Interesting. I'm kind of planning to have beef with them. I really hope to maintain a good relationship with Argenta, even if I were to get a little radical. Are there any other members of the Adeptus Sororitas in the Corona's Expanse?
None that I'm aware of, but the Sisterhood's orders are many, and can operate independently of one another, sending their sisters wherever their presence is needed as deemed by the Ecclesiarchy. Perhaps somewhere in the Lord Inquisitor's retinue, may his path be blessed, my sisters perform their duty as we speak. I wish it were so. Even a single evening spent in joint prayer and training would bring me joy.
Of course. I don't need to fucking ask this. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. I have no more questions about the Sisterhood.
Should any more arise, keeping them to yourself would be imprudent. It is a virtue.
Of course she wants to
take an
talk about her
interest in
fucking order.
holiness.
Thank you for this conversation. Until next time. Now let's go to the map and let's get going. Sister Argenta is one of the... Yep, okay. Lord Captain, sorry to disturb you. Vigdis pauses as if listening to something. It's pandemonium outside the bridge gate. One of the officers seemed to be demanding an audience with you in person. I think I hear Master Verserian's voice. In any case, I wanted to warn you in advance. Can't even fucking make it halfway across the system before someone wants something. Nice artwork. I wonder what came first, this artwork or the 3D model of the space. Okay, not exact. Oh, look at that. The everyday sound of the bridge are disrupted by voices raised in anger. Abelard's voice the loudest of all. This is not the conduct of an officer. These are the antics of a highborn brat out on a lark. Explain yourself, Lieutenant. The young woman standing before Abelard strives with all her might not to quail under the onslaught of her superior's anger. She falters, but then manages to look him in the eye and say, I apologize, sir, but I must speak to the Lord Captain. Very well, Lieutenant. You may address the Lord Captain, not least because I see you have already seen fit to disturb her. Your unauthorized appearance on the bridge and display of belligerence toward a high-ranking officer will be logged on your personal file without delay. Avril Vent. Lord Captain, Lieutenant Avril Vent, requesting permission to speak. Vent falls silence and then adds rashly, on a matter of extreme importance and urgency. Yeah, let's have a little bit of a backbone. But not dismiss her. You may speak, but I want to hear a report, not a shouting match. Having two officers bickering in full view of the bridge is unacceptable. I'm sorry, Lord Captain. I thought that drastic times called for drastic measures. Vent exclaims hotly. This matter cannot wait. Any minute now, an assault unit will be dispatched to the lower decks on orders to crush the workers' strike by any means necessary, but I am convinced that this step is unwarranted, and that the crisis itself was provoked by the actions of one of the senior officers. Vent is almost trembling with tension as she delivers her speech, her face extremely pale. An assault unit to crush a workers' strike on the lower decks. Interesting. Abelard, in no hurry to intervene, lets out a skeptical huff. Lord Captain, I urge you to investigate the actions of Seneschal Verserian. Is that him? Is it Abelard Verserian? And to intervene in what's happening on the lower decks, because very soon we will have a mutiny or a massacre on our hands. And reels off the last words as though she knows them by heart. She has clearly been preparing to say them for some time. When she is finished, she casts an anxious glance at Abelard, then at you. Can I? No. Where does Seneschal Verserian come into all this? I shall explain then, Abelard intones grimly. I beg you to hurry, time is running out. I will not hurry. Since my competence is under scrutiny, I shall speak for as long as I see fit. There is an established order to the way things are done on this ship, and one of the pillars of that system is that the rogue trader's attention is not distracted by trivial matters. It is the Seneschal's role to ensure that. I have always handled internal problems myself, so, of course, when I received information about cultists hiding on the lower decks, I took the matter in hand. So long as I live, not one of the vermin who murdered Theodora von Valancius will find refuge on her ship. You were far too heavy-handed, Seneschal Verserian. Arrests and interrogations, mass punishments for entire sectors, it has driven the people to the brink, Vent says bitterly. Now there is a strike on the lower decks, in Depot 4 to be precise. 3 worker clans are involved, but many more are passively supporting them. This situation could degenerate into an all-out insurrection. But when I report my concerns, the only response I received was an order to dispatch an assault unit and crush the strike with maximum force. Oh. How did this all start? The situation could boil over any minute, so I'll give you the condensed version. It all began when the enforcers found a cultist amulet on the body of someone who'd been killed in a drunken brawl. We reported it up the chain immediately, arranged for a cleansing rite to be performed, and opened an investigation. No heretics have been found alive, but the search has brought tensions between enforcers and workers to a head. Abelard, what do you have to say to all this? I see no need to add anything. I acted within the remit of my authority, guided exclusively by the best interests of your protectorate and personal safety. If you wish to confirm the rectitude of my actions for yourself, I have no objections. For my part, I urge the Lord Captain to go down to the lower decks, stop the assault unit, and speak directly to the people. You will see they are not lying or harboring heretics. That way you will stop the uprising before it begins. I want to know, what is Depot 4? It's one of the poorest sections on the lower deck. It is home to clans of general laborers. They are not as valuable to the ship as the families who have served specialized systems for generations. They are an easily replaceable resource, and one which is now more besides giving succor to cultists and minions of the arch-enemy. I just want to... Depot 4 is poor and troubled, but at worst that means drunken fights and illegal rotgut brewing. We have handled the workers of Depot 4 in the past. We would have done so again in the crackdown on Depot 4 if the crackdown on Depot 4 hadn't been so harsh. And another important point to bear in mind, the problem is not limited to this sector. It is located in one of the most populated lower decks, and everything that happens there has knock-on effects on all the neighboring sectors. Let me just clarify. There is an insurrection in the making aboard my ship, and no one has informed me. I would not deem it a problem worthy of the rogue trader's attention. The lower decks, as it so happens, are in revolt. 30-some years ago, We even had a revolutionary leader rise up who dared to establish workers' rules across the entire ship. It took a month to restore order, but even 8 years later, we were still battling rumors that the hero had survived his execution and was on the verge of gathering people to fight against tyranny once more. Needless to say, the rumors were baseless. As for the current situation, we have sufficient enforcers to deal with it. But on this ship, the word of the Lord Captain carries more weight than a salvo from 100 bolters. I'm sure that if the rogue trader addresses the malcontents directly, she will quell the unrest. I dread to think what problem you will disturb the rogue trader with next. Perhaps you will ask the Lord Captain to break up brawls in the mess room. I have already given you the means to resolve this problem. You simply need to use them. If I may, your ladyship, sending a hit squad to crush the rebellion is a means of ignoring the problem, not solving it. I'm mostly agreeing with Vent here. Do we pay lip service to Abelard and his conduct? Are we gonna say that he was in the right? Whatever. No, let's go with I've heard enough. I will go down to the lower decks and deal with the problem personally. Praise the Emperor! Vent cannot contain her relief. Thank you, Lord Captain. Abelard grits his teeth slightly. An enterprise bordering on the sophomoric. I don't know what that means. But please yourself, Lord Captain. However, I categorically insist that I escort you. Very well. Yeah. We're all going down there, it appears. Yep, let's head over there. Greetings, your graces. Hello. Hey, Versarian, take that scum. Take that scum. Look who it is. This is all your fault. Abelard reflexively wipes the sweat from his brow in a startlingly human gesture and a telling one. A rare moment where he allows his age and weariness to show through his armor-like veneer of self-assurance. The lower decks are a source of endless problems. Sometimes I dearly regret that we cannot replace all the locals with servitors. Let's keep moving. We need to get to the bottom of this. Something resembling a nest made out of thermal insulation material, where the workers sleep between shifts.
Keep your
A
wits about
valve?
you.
Can't interact with it though. And a bunch of people who are labeled as lower deck rabble. I want to head over this way real quick.
This ocular implant was a worthwhile investment.
It can be seen beyond the massive borders. Examining the pipe will allow you to reach it. Can I do that? I don't know. Spawn in this sector, and it looks like I'll die here too. Hello. Can I keep it as pressing?
Let us not dawdle.
So the box, a string of scratched letters runs along the edge. Yeah, if you didn't know, by the way, void ships are very large and usually populated by a considerable amount of people. Like at least tens of thousands. And you have people living their entire lives working on the same ship. And they're having children on the ship who then continue working on the ship.
Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.
It's like a whole thing. Is very emblematic of 40k.
Is there money to be made?
It's cool in that 40k way, you know. These seem to be our boys. Oh, that's Avrilo. Okay. Sounds of heated discussion reverberate through the ship's base. Lieutenant Avrilo Vent of the ship's enforcers is barring the path of a heavily built assault unit officer. And judging by her expression and tone, the standoff has dragged on for some time already and has now reached boiling point. I have my orders to put an end to the unrest and purge this sector. You can take your orders and shove them. This is my deck and my sector. There are only 3 people who can waltz in here without my express permission. The first officer, the rogue trader, and the Emperor himself. So not all my lessons fall on deaf ears. Abelard mutters in crabby approval. He does not clarify whether he means Lieutenant Fenn, the officer looming over her, or both. Your ladyship. Noticing the 2 junior officers snap to attention and salute, their subordinates following suit a moment later. What's the situation? Your ladyship, my people have locked down the bay where the strikers are, including the leaders. We have the situation under control as far as resources allow. I'll say this. We encountered some locals on our way here. Their conduct was outrageous. They even tried to throw things at us. Vent paled slightly. The people are getting desperate, clearly. They saw the assault unit and decided they had nothing left to lose. I mean, I apologize, Lord Captain. It is outrageous. I'm sure the people simply didn't recognize you. It wouldn't have occurred otherwise. We will deal with them once the current situation is resolved. I kinda want to say this. Be a little bit harsh. Is that all you have to say? Are you sure you're worthy of an officer's rank, Lieutenant, sorry, forgot. Pales but straightens and claps out. Forgive me, Lord Captain. I will take steps to ensure such a thing does not happen again. I want to speak to the strikers. Abelard's mouth twists, but he restrains himself and says nothing. Right you are, Lord Captain. Allow me to wish you good luck. Hope gleams in Lieutenant Vent's eyes. I feel like I can't be too much of a... I gotta be a little bit in the 40k mindset. And like... Still, you know... I can't be... Picard. Yeah? A dozen pairs of eyes stare apprehensively at you. The people before you are typical inhabitants of the lower decks. You take in their simple clothing, crude weapons, and faces that display varying levels of mutation, from the barely discernible to the strange, to the outright grotesque. Yeah, that's an issue. For Depot 4! Hello? Children are freezing. Rivet. A whisper passes through the crowd, and you detect a mixture of fear, astonishment, and joy in their reactions. Finally, 3 people break away from the crowd. An elderly woman and 2 men. These must be the leaders. They bow clumsily before you. Lord Captain, you have come down to us. Tell me what is troubling you. Why are you striking? Striking? That's news to us, your ladyship, says a tall, thin man in worker's garb. All we're doing is asking questions, saying what we think. Shut up, Brevet, snaps the old woman, who turns her hostile dark eyes on you. Here's the deal, your ladyship. Your damned enforcers are all over us down here. They say they're looking for cultists. One wrong word and they're reaching for the batons. If they want to punish someone, they turn off the heating to hold base for a week at a time. So we get sick and freeze. In my clan, 2 little ones died from inflammation in their lungs, all because of those forces. The old woman spits on the floor and rubs at the spittle with the toe of her worn-out shoe. Argenta does not interrupt the workers, but you see the sadness well in her eyes when the children's deaths are mentioned. She quietly... I am so hopeful for Argenta. It would be so easy to have a sister who's like full on yelling for the Emperor every chance she gets and not give a care about anything else. But there's some complexity to Argenta already, and I'm very hopeful for her development. Stager. It's all true. Vent is the only officer who stood up for us. It's clear as day who had a mother from the lower decks and who grew up amidships and has no fellow feeling towards us. The grim man with a scarred face throws up his arm. Your ladyship, we're no villains here. We're honest workers, your servants. We plotted no disorder. We went on strike openly, and now we got guns pointed at us. All we're doing is asking to be allowed to work in peace without being harassed. Abelard, do you have anything to add? I authorize the use of all necessary measures to locate Chaos worshippers hiding in this sector. The specific steps taken by the officer were not reported to me. Abelard frowns, clearly disgruntled at having to explain himself in the workers' presence. Nevertheless, I am certain that their actions were justified. Cultists are no drunken stevedores? What the fuck does this mean? I don't know. They are the enemy, and a threat to the ship. Neutralizing them demands decisive action. I feel like I want to bring up this. Like, on one hand, I really want to be on the workers' side. On the other hand, if there are actually chaos cultists in the lower decks, that's a serious issue. That's potentially... That can be extremely fucking dangerous. Chaos is not to be fucked with. The persecution started apropos of nothing, you say? I was told that one of you was found in possession of a cultist amulet, and that there are heretics hiding here. Cultist amulet? What's that? The Guga they found on the dead drunkard? If it was something evil or forbidden, we sure didn't know. The enforcers just said they were looking for heretics among us, and anyone obstructing their investigation would be punished. But how could there be heretics here? We know our own people. There have been no new faces around. Definitely not. And if there were, we'd be the first to report them. And as for this amulet or whatever it is, they took it off a dead body. There are no cultists still breathing in our sector, that's for sure. But when that fight broke out, some enterprising folks looted the bodies. The boots they came back with, nobody's ever tread these decks in boots so fine. I can tell you that. Seems to me these cultists have better commanders than us. Oh yeah, those boots really were fine. There was no harm in taking them, right? As for the amulet, it must have been pocketed by someone who didn't know any better. We don't need any amulets around here. We all worship the Emperor. And when we work and we bow down before the machine spirits of the large and small transformers and the servo motor. The same way my grandfather was taught 100 years ago by a tech priest who came calling. Believe us, your ladyship, we are a people of faith. Again, fucking many generations working the same jobs for centuries. Naive children, weren't you taught from an early age about the dangers of the arch-enemy's creations? Weren't you warned that any unfamiliar object could be one of them? We were told, Holy Sister, but it was long ago. Last time we saw a confessor in our sector, it was just after I'd had my third little one. That is regrettable, but you cannot lay the burden of leading righteous life on the shoulders of the Holy Fathers. Who will you blame when the beasts crawl out of those amulets you stole from the heretics? The Holy Father who was not there Or the scavenger who brought evil down on himself and his neighbors? I'm immediately thinking that acquiring a priest or several priests to do the rounds and just, you know, go door to door on the lower decks. I don't know if it would be possible to erect a chapel somewhere in the lower decks, if there's space for it. To inform and counteract chaos worship. What changes do you want? If you look at this, the exalted Lord Captain herself is asking us bile rats what we want. I don't know what the fuck accent I'm doing, by the way. Well, here's what. We want you to rein in your damn enforcers, to quit turning off the heat, and to stop battering everything that moves. No, that's not it. We want the enforcers gone from here, and we want to be armed. Give us arms and we'll govern ourselves. We'll defend ourselves if these cultists do show their faces. I've been leader of my clan for 20 years now. Getting rid of these club-wielding thugs can only improve things around here. You've gone too far, old man. They'll never let the maggots on the lower decks live without the enforcers breathing down their necks. They probably even insist on enforcers on the upper decks too. As for your weapons, what do we need them for? Before the first day's out, we'll have someone shooting their neighbor out of stupidity or drunkenness. We don't need that. If the enforcers stopped hassling us, that'll be enough. In return, we'll find the scavengers who robbed the cultists' bodies, and we'll talk to them, one lower decker to another. If there are any more of those damn amulets around, we'll hand them over to the enforcers ourselves. You speak for yourself and your clan, and I'll speak for me and mine. I don't want empty gestures. I want real change. They'll promise us the world now, but as soon as the Anointed One turns her back, these brutes will be on us even harder than before. All because we dared to speak out. The tall worker's eyes dart between the two arguing leaders. That's a rivet. Every few seconds he opens his mouth as if planning to agree, but each time he falls silent, seemingly making a few vague noises of approval. Oh, this is difficult. That's 100% though. Thoughts, Abelard? The story about going scavenging for boots and accidentally picking up a heretical amulet doesn't convince me. These people were moments away from rebelling and possibly becoming minions of the arch-enemy. We must not give them what they want. Even if they did acquire something innocently, purely out of their own stupidity, that does not mean they are not tainted with corruption. And that's true enough, you know? What begins as petty thievery can turn into a far graver problem. I've seen it before. Abelard's face darkens momentarily. In my second war, there was a sergeant in the Imperial Guard regiment that was stationed nearby. The sergeant took an ordinary pocket knife from the body of a heretic, and his whole unit lost their lives for it. When they finally managed to break into the barracks, they found not a single survivor. Only the pocket knife, which had grown through all the rows of beds like a metal choking vine. So when it comes to scavengers, malcontents, strikers, or whatever they'll turn into next, my verdict is simple. Give them no quarter. So, she, once the enforcer is gone, that we stop want to be armed, govern ourselves. This is a ship. I understand that you live here in clans. This is still a ship. And there needs to be cohesion. Part of me really wants to give them all they want. This guy will be happy as long as they're not harassed anymore. That much I think we can promise. So I'm gonna go for the coercion. Spreading anarchy on the ship is the first step toward embracing chaos. Putting weapons into untrained hands would be even worse. What's more, the enforcers are needed to maintain oversight and order. Withdraw those demands and we will consider the rest. The tall worker they call Rivet shrugs and casts a sidelong look at the old woman. Old Nan, listen, listen, the Lord Captain herself has come down to us and is offering concessions. I don't know a single person in the whole Depot 4 who's ever stood next to the rogue trader, let alone talk to them. Back down, now's no time for you to be a stubborn old crone. Listen to us, old Nan. The 3 clans of Depot 4 ought to act as one. We've made our minds up. It's your turn to decide. Don't ask them to disband the enforcers to give us weapons. We don't need any of that. The old woman hisses in dissatisfaction. You two are ganging up on me, is that it? So brave you're against an old woman, but I'll shut up. I will indeed. I won't go against 2 clan leaders on my own. If you want to make peace with the enforcers, make your peace. That's great, just fantastic. Lord Captain, we have all agreed. Then it's decided. The persecution will stop, and I will expect you to assist in locating any remaining amulets or weapons left by the cultists. Your ladyship, thank you. You have not abandoned us lower deckers. You came yourself and settled everything. I'll tell my grandchildren about this. Of course, your ladyship. We'll root out any nasty business faster than the enforcers, and we'll leave no stone unturned. Are you satisfied, Lord? Did I miss you? Yep. I'm satisfied. Is there anything to pick up before we leave? Or look at?
Let us not dawdle.
Heat sink warms the air around. Okay. Is there a room there? Can I go there? Probably not.
Always keep your eye.
Let's return. That was an interesting little... Stopping unexpectedly, Abelard imperiously dismisses the unit to stand at a distance and addresses your other companion saying, I have urgent matter to discuss with Lord Captain. Please give us a moment. Abelard looks at you, and his last vestiges of restraint vanish. Well, are you pleased with your investigation, Lord Captain? You kowtowed to the disloyal rabble. You believe their lies and show them leniency. Next time the ship is attacked by cultists, that rabble will welcome them in with open arms and allow them to wreak whatever havoc they like, because they see you as a weak leader. Is that how you see your future at the helm of the von Valancius Protectorate? Yeah, let's get at him. Let's talk about your role in all this instead. You allowed this revolt to happen. Your actions practically guaranteed it would. I would have handled the situation myself had you not decided to intervene. Abelard says irascibly. Fucking... Do I need a goddamn fucking dictionary to play this video game? Irascibly? What the fuck? Remember Lord Captain Theodora. Do you think she ever set one slippered foot on the lower decks? No, she did not. Such matters were left to myself and the junior officers, while she dedicated herself to her grand designs for the Protectorate, as any true strategist and rogue trader ought. Ooh. Ooh. This feels like the kindest one. And I'm not looking to make enemies of my seneschal. I would be only too willing to trust in my seneschal and not fill my head with such matters, but the situation had spiraled out of your control, Abelard. Abelard's face relaxes slightly. You're right. At least as concerns junior officers making complaints directly to you. And Abelard stands straight up at attention. I lost my temper, Lord Captain, and I believe I ought to explain myself. He speaks slowly, the words not coming easily to him. The prosperity of the von Valancius Protectorate is not just an empty phrase to me. I left the Imperial Navy for the chance to see it flourish. It was the most momentous decision of my life. I did it because I saw in Lord Captain Theodora's deeds the sign of true greatness. Rogue traders do not simply forge new routes and capture worlds. They create order out of anarchy. That creative impulse was entirely lacking during my time in the military. So I left behind everything I had known, everything my family had known. I come from a long line of officers, and I embarked upon this incredibly reckless venture. Lord Captain Theodora entrusted me with all the concerns she had no time for. She would go off on her flagship for long periods, to distant frontiers, on scouting voyages. The advancement of entire protectorates rested on my shoulders. And then suddenly, everything that had been built over years and years began to quake, rattling like a flimsy hanger on a seismically active world. One of the senior officers betrayed us. The rogue trader was killed, and who knows what is happening on the planets. I tell you this honestly, without fear of appearing weak. All this has come as a grievous blow to me. I'm not panicking or grieving because I cannot allow myself to panic or grieve. I'm duty-bound to aid the new rogue trader, to aid you, to find your footing as quickly as possible. And to do that, I must insulate you from problems that in the past have been dealt with by tried and tested procedures set out in the ship's regulations. Procedures that were established long ago and have functioned smoothly for decades cannot suddenly be deemed excess to requirements. That's harsh, but pretty good. No. No, I want... That's very harsh. That is the kindest thing I can say. Do I want to be the kindest kindest possible? Well, without giving in to the tradition. I'm not looking for tradition. I'm looking for progress in the right direction. Not tradition for tradition's sake. I feel like this part, you and I, the inclusive language, inclusive of him, is probably gonna be good in the long run. I understand, but you need to learn how to respect me as your Lord Captain and Rogue Trader. Accept it and start living in the new world. A world where Theodora is gone and where you and I have new decisions to make. Abelard solemnly inclines his head. Yes, Lord Captain. After a moment's silence he adds, looking at you with interest, your resolve is admirable and demonstrates strong leadership. I shall remember this moment, should my old habits ever begin to creep back in. And now, Please, let us leave the lower decks. If the rogue trader desires to stretch her legs, there are far more suitable places. Oh, we leveled up. I think I'm gonna save leveling up until I have the whole party with me. That's interesting. Apparently that granted us enough experience for a level up. I haven't really been paying attention to exactly what does and doesn't gain us experience, but it really bothers me in RPGs when the best way to gain experience is just to kill things. Anyways, that was quite a long side adventure. This might be a very long episode, or I might cut this recording in two, but for now I'm just gonna stand here on the bridge, and when we come back, I guess we'll go to Rykard Minoris. See you later.